point.
No, I say, like, if I go back to like the puzzle definition, like the way that I explain it is like everyone has their own puzzle and they're all unique puzzles. There might be pieces that, like, you two are both Marines, so you guys have some pieces that look the same. The crayon piece looks the same. It's just a different color depending on what you're, right? Like, you're raised in the same household, so certain pieces are going to look the same. But when you're looking at the actual puzzle itself, none of them are identical. When you're zooming out and you're looking at the whole picture, it would, in my opinion, be ridiculously unethical to operate and practice as if everyone has the same puzzle simply because of a diagnosis that's sitting on their chart.
This is the Veritable Veteran Podcast, bringing truth and exposure to the struggles veterans and their families face post-military. Depression, anger, PTSD, suicide. Who am I? What do I do now? And we're live. Hey guys, welcome back to the Veritable Veteran Podcast. We've got Kat and Aaron again, and they've come back on to discuss. Today we're gonna focus primarily on moral injury, what it is, what it isn't, and also just kind of the insurance company's role in mental health and how, I mean, for the most part, they kind of impede pretty much anyone and everyone from getting the help they need, but also like looking at how we can use the system that we're being forced to use and then use it to our benefit. So that's what we're going to kind of talk about today, but I'm glad to have Kat and Aaron back on. Thank you guys for coming back on. I loved our last conversation. We've already been talking for 30 minutes before we even started recording. So
I had to get all the other pre-recording stuff out.
Yeah, the stuff that we can't put out that we should probably put on like an aftercast,
it should be on like bloopers,
story time.
Bloopers reel, yeah,
just story time, and then just put it on like you have to pay for this one. This is the funny stuff. It has no relevance to anything that's going to help you. It's just funny to listen to. So yeah, we'll add that as the stuff you have to pay for later.
Could be the nuts heard around the world.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
Do like a whole website, call it Only Veterans, and you have like the free stories and then the paid stories.
Yeah, you got to pay for everything. You go on there and all the thumbnails it's just blurred out and you can't see anything. And it's like access, like pay for it. Like,
best
oh my word.
Business idea ever.
Oh, God. Literally, you're going to be down here making that a thing. I can feel it already.
So, somebody just took it, Bill Gates has it right now.
Yeah, they're like, oh, that's a good idea. They've already got the domain and they're, locking it down.
Yeah, it took
they went to GoDaddy.com, bought the domain.
Bought it. So funny story about that. I had the domain, theVeritableVeteran.com, and we had been using it, and I had all the other associated domains, and then we had just been holding on to it until I got a website. And this was like back in like 2019 when I did it, because I just started and everything. I was like, eventually I'm going to have a website. We need to get it. My wife's not here, so I'm going to blame her. It's my fault. It's my fault because I didn't remind her and I didn't keep up with it. But we did not renew the ownership of it. And my page had grown just a little bit, like not a whole lot, but a little bit. And someone found it and they bought it immediately. And then when I went to go back to renew it, they're like, oh, it's owned by somebody else and they'll sell it to you for like $3,000. And I was like, I was so mad. I was livid. And, Lydia was like literally in tears. And I was like, lesson learned. And we ended up buying it again because I needed
for
it.
$3,000?
But it was, we did. We had to buy it. It was the only way we were going to get it. So, Yep, we figured it out, but we got all the other ones, and now it's one of those things that we don't forget. So but it's
that's now I'm like
lessons
in
learned.
my head. No, ours auto renews.
Yeah, and that I think ours was an option that we didn't do for some reason, and I don't. Again, it was really early on, and we were still learning everything, and it was one of those things that we got it, we're good, and then 12 months goes by and we forget to renew it, and then they just as soon as it came available, they snatched it, and I was like, man, you people, like, usually you can. They saw the potential in what we were building, and it was like as soon as it came available, they snatched it, and I was like, you scumbags. I was like, man.
But also, I mean, like, clearly there's indicators saying that you're about to succeed or succeeding a little bit enough to steal your name.
Right?
They've got to have some AI algorithm.
Oh, I'm sure they did, but this was even back before well, I'm sure AI was a thing, but I'm saying it was back before it exploded. But I mean, they you can buy domains and they're not that expensive. I mean, they're, you can get them and they're pretty cheap, but like even some that people buy, they'll sell them for like, 100, $200 because they're just not really worth anything. I saw mine. I clicked on it and it was like, oh, yours is for sale, $3,000. I was like, what? Like y'all clearly value this more than I do, but holy cow. Like, geez.
Flattered and also a little
I'm
mad.
I'm I'm flattered and extremely angry that you did this. Anyway, I don't know. So somebody somewhere, if you're listening to this and you got $3,000 from me, you're welcome. But now
But also you're a dirtbag.
jeez, but I hate you. And if I find you, I'm gonna have rude words with you. That's all it'll happen. It'll just be words, and I'll say that I don't like you, but that's it. So well done. You won. You got $3,000. Congratulations.
Bravo.
Yeah. So, Kat, this is a question for you, and um. I'm curious because I'm about to start working towards this in my education because I'm planning on going through the master's program. I'm actually in the application process right now. I applied and I got to fill out some other things. So I'm going to start working towards clinical counseling, master's program. So in your formal education, how much time is spent on moral injury? Okay, next question. That was the answer I expected.
I can't speak for every program. And
right.
I mean,
Yeah.
granted, this was 11 years ago that I started my master's program. Wow, that makes me
So that
sound
was
so
2015?
old. Yes, I
2015?
started
Okay.
in the fall of 2015. And
Okay.
so I can't speak to every program, obviously, but in mine, if we talked about it, it was not in a way that it like stuck and like I vividly remember in detail having this discussion the
Right.
way that I remember talking about group therapy or, CBT or all these other types of things.
Comparatively, how much time do you think in your memory or your experience did you spend on PTSD or PTS, whatever you want to call it?
PTSD, I mean, like a good significant portion. I think it inevitably will weave into a variety of different courses.
Yeah.
Um, Not necessarily as like the focal point, but I mean, ultimately, I think that when you go into this field, the understanding is like everyone carries trauma and kind of I think I vaguely remember you saying this the last time that we did the podcast about how brain chemistry wise like everyone's trauma looks the same in the brain. So even if it's not necessarily a trauma by your own definition, so to speak, you're going to end up working with what someone is coming in and reporting as trauma.
Right. So and I'm curious, I know that both of you have dealt with this and you talk about it and we've talked about it just offline. What do you see, how would you define moral injury? And that's for either one of you or both of you.
You're going to make me
And that
go
doesn't
first?
have to necessarily,
I'll let
it doesn't have to necessarily be like I don't necessarily want like the book definition. Like, how do
Right.
you see it? Like,
Oh,
what
I'd
in your
never give
own
you the
words,
book
like, how would you
definition
describe?
anyway.
Yeah.
I don't believe in the book definition of basically anything. Um, I think the way that I describe moral injury to clients is really this concept that we all have an understanding of who we are at our core, right? Like if you take out the roles that we play and maybe the uniforms that we wear, a parent or a brother or a sister or a friend or, whatever, we have these really core intrinsic values that make us. And these are things that guide us in all different areas of our life. And it's the root of where we make our choices and how we prioritize things, right? Like I'm a mom. So, if I'm being offered like, hey, do you want to go do this thing? But it's at the cost of, one of my kids, my answer is always going to be no, because my core, my value is my kids come before me every day of the week, Um, and so what happens with moral injury, right, is traditionally in a military setting, but I would argue that we see moral injury in other places too. But, in the military, you're asked to do things in combat settings, in times of war, sometimes not even in times of war, but chain of command wise, you're being asked to do something that violates that for you. It's in a way, taking a piece of what you have always thought to be that inner compass. Um, and it makes sense when you're there, right? In the context of when and
Right.
how and all of the stuff that's going on, it makes sense. The problem is when you come home and you're not in that setting anymore and you try to put it in the context of being a civilian again, it doesn't fit. and it doesn't align with who
Right.
you are, and how do you sit with that at that point? And sometimes it's things that you were asked to do or were told to do. And sometimes it's the things that you watched happen that you were still in some way a part of. And I think the other element of moral injury that, for military in particular is being, can I swear in a podcast? I don't think I can. I'm not going to. But,
Evan's got the beep beep beep. Yes.
Yeah.
but being screwed over by your chain of command. Right? Like being let down by your chain of command in a way that violates that moral injury of this is someone who's supposed to have your back. This is someone who's supposed to have your six. It's supposed to keep you safe. And you're supposed to trust in the chain of command of, I'm being told how to do something, when to do something. And that being violated in some way, shape, or form is sort of this almost like a third kind of category that I would say for moral injury. Um, and again, it's one of those things where when you come back and you're kind of sitting with all of the things that have happened, like how do you then make sense of those pieces and still feel like you, when you were asked to do something or witness something or had something happen to you that took part of that identity?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that I know they talk a lot about moral injury taking place in like military settings, but also in like incidents of like sexual assault. Um, and because from what I understand and what I've been told, it's more of a violation of trust than a violation of safety, and where PTSD is more of a violation of safety, like where you're legitimately in fear for your life and your safety. Um, where again, moral injury is more of a violation of trust in somebody. And this is one of the definitions. Have you ever looked up, I'm sure you haven't, I don't mean to insult you at all, but have you ever like Googled the definition of moral injury and seen how
Yeah,
many different results you get? I mean, there's like, eh, again, you could probably get 15 different definitions if you just Google it and then just go through the first 15, articles that come up. You're going to find 15 different definitions. And it's one of those confusing, ambiguous, you know, muddied definitions that nobody really agrees on. But
but
I
I
know,
think that it goes into this element of like it not being an actual diagnosis, right? So it's like the jury's kind of out on how you would define it and what would make that diagnostic criteria, as opposed to something like PTSD that's been in the DSM for a good chunk of time in some way, shape, or form. It's obviously changed over, the different DSM. I was about to say models. That's not what I meant.
yeah,
Revisions.
yeah,
um, but it's been around, so, I mean, if you Google
right,
PTSD, 9 times out of 10, it's gonna pop up with some of the DSM criteria for PTSD as opposed to something like moral injury, where you're gonna have, like, articles written about it, some scientific research done on it, some random, like, clinical blog that someone, like, wrote about it, and
right,
then you get the lived experiences. I think, like, moral injury in recent years has been something that is more talked about in the military, community, and so you do have people sharing their own lived experiences with it and what it kind of encapsulates for them.
yeah,
I don't think
yeah, and
encapsulates is the
that's
word, but I made it one.
close enough. That's fine. I know what you mean. So you're talking about the DSM, and that's the manual, basically the Bible of like mental health, right? I mean, that's what I've been told. Is just it has all the diagnostic codes for different mental health conditions that they can. And if I'm saying something wrong, tell me. Um, but the book has all the codes that they use to officially diagnose somebody, so they can take those codes and use them to bill insurance. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yep.
Okay, so being in the DSM does not make it a mental health condition. It's just
Yes, it
once
technically
it
would.
gets in the DSM, it then becomes a billable
Yes.
condition. Okay.
Correct.
And
Correct.
that's what I think people need to understand. It's like, well, it's not in the DSM, it must not be a legit thing. And I'm like, yeah, I don't it took a while for PTSD to get in there from what I understand as well. And that was a thing. That's been a thing since God
It's
knows. I mean,
yeah.
cavemen were, I don't necessarily believe in like cavemen that they normally, portray, but thousands and thousands of years ago, people were in conflict and they were having post-traumatic stress from what
Yeah.
they
I
saw
mean,
and
no,
did.
they had
So
the jitters and
yeah,
whatever else. Yeah.
yeah,
All the same exact signs and symptoms, but they had, 100 different
But
names for it. What
different.
it wasn't it was what, the 70s or something? It was right after Vietnam or somewhere in that
yeah,
time
yep,
frame. And actually I had a pretty good debate on one of your comment threads with somebody about that and suicide rates and whatever else, you know, suicide related to PTSD, and like, well, it's pretty impossible for, your great grandpa to have, or his friends to have killed themselves from, PTSD when it wasn't a thing yet. It was, but it wasn't called that. And so,
Right.
but if you
Yeah.
look at rates just per capita, they're like 1.2 per 100,000 different then than they are now. And so it's like, but they didn't survive
Yeah.
like so it just is what it
Yeah.
is. But
Statistically, it just looks different.
statistically it looks different because, we're changing again. We've created a billable definition, for our medical condition, and that's insurance.
Sure. And
Yeah. Because
yeah, I mean,
and it was
we see
interesting because
that.
I started looking
Oh no, good.
into, I had started looking into moral injury back in September. And I remember this specifically because in September of 2025, moral injury was added to the DSM as a Z code. And I thought that it was hilarious. It was really weird. And I think this was more of God's timing than, it wasn't mine, obviously, but I think God worked this out because I started talking to an individual, Eric Donahoe. I don't know if you've listened to the episode or episodes that I've had with him. He wrote the book Canyon of Hope, and he's on social media and stuff. But we've talked a lot about, his big thing is moral injury and understanding it and getting it to a point where it's talked about more and it's actually able to be diagnosed with people so they can have this and understand what it is and not just be labeled with PTSD when in reality they probably don't have PTSD, or if they do, they have that and moral injury.
Correct.
So I remember talking to him and I was like, I Googled moral injury and all and the DSM and all this other stuff. And on September 17th of 2025, like the day before I Googled it, it was added to the DSM and it was added as a Z code. And I was like, whoa, that's hilarious. Like I just talked about this, and it's listed in there as a moral, religious, or spiritual problem. And I took a screenshot of this because I wanted to read it, because if I try to quote it, it'll be wrong. So this is the moral injury Z code definition. Covers distress resulting from witnessing, failing to prevent, or committing acts that transgress deeply held moral beliefs. And that's it's Z code 65.8, moral, religious, or spiritual problem. And it's like, you read that and it's like, that sounds super ambiguous and confusing. It's like that, what does that even mean? But the being, and you can speak, I'm sure you can speak to this better than I can, Kat. What is the difference between an actual diagnosis and a Z code?
So a Z code is essentially considered something that is kind of like flagged in the mental health community as like this is a thing that's like being researched, needs more research to kind of get it to be big enough that it could have a formal diagnosis, but it's not something that can be a primary billing code when it comes to insurance. So if you're seeing somebody for mental health treatment and you're paying out of pocket and you're not using insurance, it's kind of irrelevant. Um, in terms of anything like that. But if you're seeing a provider and they have to bill your insurance, they need a different primary diagnosis code that's not a Z code. Otherwise, your insurance won't pay for your services because they're going to say it's not a billable diagnosis code. So in that case, it
Right.
would be something, and again, that's where insurance really dictates like what's going to go on someone's chart, because more often than not, when we're looking at moral injury, like the two, I'd say, like primary diagnoses that are going to kind of go hand in hand with it would be a PTSD diagnosis or a major depressive disorder diagnosis, just depending on what symptoms are really like the most present for that person. I've seen it both ways. But again, like kind of what you said, I've also seen people that are struggling with moral injury that don't meet the diagnostic criteria for PTSD or major depressive disorder. And then I'm sitting there trying to figure out what to diagnose them with so I can use
Right.
their insurance. So it really
The-
is like Z codes are helpful in the sense of like if we really wanted to paint the picture of what somebody's like struggling with diagnostically, you could have like 17 Z codes on their chart if you really wanted. It just doesn't make
yeah.
a difference when it comes to being able to bill insurance. You'd still need a different primary diagnosis.
Do you think that having needing to put the right things on there, the billable things on their chart negatively affects clients? Do you think that that's something that, okay. And can you talk about that? Cause I just thought about that and I'm like, I could see that being causing them to really start to question themselves and be like, maybe I am this, or maybe I do have this when in reality, all you're trying to do is get it billed through insurance.
Right. And so that's something that it goes so deep. I think that it absolutely can interfere with a client's, I mean, arguably just treatment in general, because you do, as a therapist, get stuck in these positions where you're looking at a client who clearly is struggling with something that they don't necessarily meet full criteria to be able to diagnose, but they still need the help. And so now you're sitting here trying to figure out what to put on their chart so that their insurance will pay for it so that they can still get help. Um,
Right.
without giving them like a weird complex of like, hey, I'm gonna put major depressive disorder on here. It's like the best fit, um, and the closest thing that we're gonna get. Um, but I mean, even, I talk with clients all the time about diagnostics in general. Like it's not that I don't believe in diagnostics. I think they're important and I think they have a place. But ultimately, when I'm looking at treatment with a client, I'm not looking at their diagnosis and saying, well, you have PTSD, so this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. Because to me, it's not really about the diagnosis that's sitting on their chart. It's about my case conceptualization and my understanding of who that person is and the 9,000 puzzle pieces that make them who they are and how they're showing up in this space in front of me. Um, and so I think that really having that transparency with clients about like diagnostics, quite literally in this day and age, are basically just to get your insurance provider to cover your services.
Yeah.
Um,
And
here's,
do you tell your clients that?
yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, and that's yeah.
I'll sit there and explain like, hey, so this is kind of what I was thinking diagnostic wise. Here's why I think that. Here's like the symptoms that you're talking about that line up with that. Here's why I'm going to put this on your chart. But realistically, when we're looking at like vet, military, first responder populations, it gets so much more deep than that because I have to walk a very fine line of who's going to be looking at this chart that's not just their insurance company and how is this going to impact their life, their career, their marriage, their parenting. I mean, everything when it comes to that demographic and population. And so it's an even trickier game to play, to try and figure out what can I put on this chart as a diagnosis that is the most appropriate and ethical and clinical diagnosis while walking the line of what's the least heavy diagnosis that I can put on here, because I've worked with clients that have had their careers put on the line because of a diagnosis that they were given, by another provider and the wrong person found out about it. Or, like I see it happen all the time. Like, Aaron talked about it in the last podcast that we did with you. Like, his PTSD was and is heavily weaponized, in his divorce proceedings. And no one, gets married thinking they're going to get divorced. But
Right.
inevitably, it sometimes happens. And so that's always something too, or even life insurance, regardless of whether you're a vet, military, first responder, but life insurance has the right to pull all of your mental health records too. And that can impact what you're going to pay for life insurance and the policy. I mean, it's again, I don't want to say that diagnostics are not important because they are, but far more often I would say that I feel that they're important because they're weaponized in so many different like areas of your life. But I mean, treatment wise, I can't remember the last time I ever looked at someone's chart and said, well, you have this diagnosis, so we're going to treat you this way.
And that's I think that's big for veterans and first responders and just people in general to understand that there are therapists out there that do not take this cookie cutter definition and apply it to every single person. Like and that's, if there's therapists that do that, shame on you because you should be doing that. You've got, they're individual people with individual problems and it's like snowflakes. No, none of them are the same. It's like fingerprints. None of them are the same. And they all have to have a special handling and a different type of treatment applied. Because if you don't do it for that single person individually for that person, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's my little rant. But anyway,
No, I say, like, if I go back to, like, the puzzle definition, like, the way that I explain it is, like, everyone has their own puzzle and they're all unique puzzles. There might be pieces that, like, you two are both Marines, so you guys have some pieces that look the same, you
Yeah,
yeah,
like
know?
crayons.
yeah.
The crayon piece looks the same. It's just a different color depending on what
Yeah.
your favorite flavor is.
Yes.
Um, Right, but, like, certain pieces might look identical or, we look at siblings, right? Like, you're raised in the same household, right? So certain pieces are gonna look the same, but when you're
Yeah,
looking at the actual puzzle itself, none of them are identical, none of them are the same. So if you zoom in on one particular thing, sure, but when you're zooming out and you're looking at the whole picture, it would, in my opinion, be ridiculously unethical to operate and practice as if everyone has the same puzzle simply because of a diagnosis that's sitting on their chart.
Well, even
right.
more interesting than that too, though, is and you kind of talked about it, and we talked about it a couple times now, of like how trauma hits differently. Like you and I could have been in the exact same gunfight in the exact same vehicle side by side, and what your body and brain captured from that moment don't have to match what my body and brain captured from that moment. That could have been the worst day of my life, and you're like, dude, that was nothing. Like, um, and so that's like we talked about last time we were on together, how do we fix it? And that's such a complicated answer because we're all different, right? The human part of what we're dealing with is the impossible to bank on, variation between, your PTSD and my PTSD or whatever it is, for me, a lot of the moral injury, and I'm glad that like at least the Z code has like spiritual stuff. A lot for me is like the stuff that I did in country. I did for a lot of reasons, and we talked about this in the past. But like, and I actually just pulled it up while you guys were chatting. Is like, the Ten Commandments, right? I was raised in the church, and the Ten Commandments, it literally, and this was used against me when I got back by family members or whatever else, and but you literally like the Ten Commandments right out of the book. So I'm not making it up. Well, sorry, the book's over here. But this thing's been Iraqi and Afghanistan with me, so it's a little messed up. But it, literally, Deuteronomy 5 verse 17, you shall not murder. Doesn't say you shouldn't kill. You shouldn't murder. And there's multiple
It's
times.
a very important distinction.
Super important, and there's so many veterans, and first responders, law enforcement officers, in their lifetime, they've been told, "Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not kill." That's a lie. That's not what the book says. It literally, like, black and white right here. "Thou shalt
Yes.
not murder." Um,
And if you look up, it's even more interesting if you look up the original Hebrew term. There's very different terms used for like justified killings and then murder. Like murder is a very specific, premeditated, like I'm doing this out of, for reasons that have nothing to do with self-defense or preservation or anything, or in a in a military setting. It is a very specific word. There's a lot of old languages the the words mean more
multiple
than what
things.
English
Yep.
means. They mean
Yeah,
but they have more words that are very specific for that one specific thing. And we have that too. I mean, murder is very different than, killing. Like it's completely different. One implies intent and premeditation, one does not. In Hebrew, it's even more specific where I mean, this means like like, this person was like maliciously killed
sure. Yep.
with intent, and it's not in a military setting. It's like so it's completely different, and it drives me nuts when people take that verse out of context. It makes me
Right.
really
Oh,
angry
for
because it's
sure.
been used to browbeat people for forever since it was written, probably,
Oh, yeah.
and to hurt people and say, "Well, you killed somebody, so you're obviously a bad person," and it's like that's not what the Bible says.
Yeah. Well, and there's
Not even
multiple
close.
times in the same Bible, right? David was sent to kill Goliath, and how many times have nations overcome other nations and surrounded cities and killed everybody inside or whatever it was, right? And there's multiple times where I think it was Paul was like, "Lord, search my heart and know that my intentions are pure with whatever I have to do next." He knew he was about to do some sort of evil per the text, but his soul and intentions are pure, and I think a lot of that comes from and that's where a lot of like my moral injury stems from is literally like I had that thrown in my face. Like, you've killed people before. Yeah, I sure have. But I didn't murder anybody. And there were times in country after friends had been hurt or killed, where we were far more willing and wanting to get in a conflict so we could mess somebody up that messed our friend up. Sure. And
Hmm.
that's when I knew it was time to get out. Um, because those feelings and I was getting to the point where it was no longer defense of myself, defense of my country, defense of a population that I was trying to free from the Taliban, and that, again, the withdrawal and everything else is where a lot of my moral injury came in, because it's harder to write off those things that I did to people as good things when we just gave the keys of the kingdom back to the guys that I did those things to, or the innocent family stuck between us and those guys, you know. And I'll remember forever the kid that came in, you know, injured, and he was young, and I've got stepkids the same age, you know, um, because of the conflict. And who knows, you know, it was shrapnel from something, whether it was my mortar or, you know, the rocket off the heli or whatever. It just doesn't matter. This kid got hurt because of the conflict there, and you know, in the name of freeing that country. And then here we go, we're just gonna give it back. And, you know, so that's like for me, the moral injury part quite literally comes from, you know, getting back and having civilians throw that in my face. For me, it was my older brother throwing it in my face. Well, you know, you broke the 10 commandments, you killed somebody. I'm like, no, I did not. And it took, you know, our pastor at a Bible study being like, no, literally it says thou shalt not murder. And, you know, we had that whole discussion, and then that was kind of where he and I, you know, separated ways and really stopped being brothers, because it was no longer a weapon that could be used against me, and that's just is what it is. But that's where, you know, a huge piece of, and you see it a lot of, you know, with law enforcement involved shootings, whatever else is, again, no one, most people didn't sign up for the military or to be law enforcement or any other field where you might have to do harm to another individual. To do harm to another individual, that's like the last thing we want to do. And you know, I can speak for myself. I've been in a couple gunfights now. They were pretty common ground, you know, all of Afghanistan for us, and I don't wanna go fight again if I don't have to. I try everything I can to not have a fight, you know. And but if violence has to happen, send me first because I can take it, is just where I'm
Right.
at. And again, comes from the little blue book, right? Like,
Yeah.
"Here I am, send me," right? And so it's but that's where, you know, for me, the moral injury piece of the puzzle comes in, is a lot to do with religion. And at least the Z code, you know, specifies that it comes from a spiritual background too, because it does. And
Mhm.
we carry a lot of guilt for a lot of things we do. And talking about it is the biggest thing to release that guilt. I mean, you know, we've had the talk about, like, even like when, you know, Catholics go into confessional, they're letting go of that shame. They're handing it to, you know, the priest or God or whatever. And then they're, you know, serving their penance for that thing. But it's not that dissimilar than, you know, peer chats or, you know, podcast stuff or talking on the internet or, you know, meeting with your therapist. You're letting go of that shame and sharing it, and it's off your shoulders, and it suddenly has no power when you talk about it. And
Yeah.
that's, you know,
Well, and
for me,
that's
the most
it,
healing thing.
yeah. And that, I mean, that the Bible, you know, just talking about the Bible, it specifically says confess your sins one to another, you know, and it's like we're not meant to just keep all this stuff inside, you
Right.
know. And if you have screwed up and done, you know, things that were wrong, I mean, the Bible talks about like we're sinful, we're gonna screw up, we're gonna do wrong things, and
Literally what it's made for.
yeah, so
You
it's
know,
like literally
literally
like
says
that's
it like
why
this one
that's
perfect person, and it ain't you and
yeah,
me.
that's why it's here. And it, you know,
Yep.
and he talks so many times about not giving up, you know, the gathering together and the meeting together and the confessing of sins one to another and praying for each other and with each other. And then you've got veterans that nowadays, and I'm talking to myself, just isolating themselves, and just men in general and people in general, just isolating themselves. And because they're like, well, I hate people. And it's like, I understand that because I don't like crowds of people and I don't like being out in public all that often. And if I am out in public, I'm just avoiding everybody as much as I can. And that's not what they're talking about though. It's talking about gathering with like close friends and having friendships and having people you can talk to and having people you can go and, you know, kind of unload on and be like, okay, I need to talk to you. Like, I don't need you to fix me. I don't need you to, you know, tell me how to fix myself. I don't need anything. I just need you to sit there and listen to me and not judge me when I tell you that I'm struggling with X, Y, and Z. That's, you know, and I'm in the process of working on getting a group together here locally because I know a bunch of other dads that some of them are veterans, some of them aren't. And I'm like, guys, we need to just get together a couple times, you know, a month or, you know, whatever, and just read the Bible, work out, shoot guns, you know, whatever, play video
Wrestle each
games, and
other.
then
Yeah.
just
Whatever it
talk.
takes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Someone's
Like he's
busting
got
out a
jujitsu
grill
mats and he's
come
like, we're just gonna,
summertime.
you know,
Yeah.
we're gonna get all sweaty and roll around on a mat together and then we'll talk about our feelings. You know?
Listen,
But it's
we've it's not a crazy concept. We've talked about doing like combat therapy multiple times, and literally like, let's go meet at the CrossFit gym. My buddy that actually he's a 2-8 Marine too, was in Ramadi, Iraq, owns a CrossFit gym just down the road. Um and so he was one of my senior, you know, corporals or whatever. Um and literally we talked about that. I'm like, can we like set up some mats and just like have like a veteran
It's
first
like
responder
Fight
group
Club,
where we
but
like beat
better
the crap
yeah,
out of each
because
other,
you get to
Fight
talk
Club.
you know?
about it.
But like
Yeah. and then we're best friends. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
literally. I mean, you could probably attest to this too. Some of my best friends in the Marine Corps were the guys that I got in the first fist fight with, and like,
yeah,
like
absolutely.
I love all the videos floating around the internet. I always laugh at them, like just Marines brawling, right? And half
Oh
of
yeah,
us, like put us in the right setting with the right tools, and we're absolutely lethal. But I don't know who taught us how to box, because gosh, it's a mess. It's the dumbest thing. You
yeah,
just arms flailing. It's like,
yep,
okay, that's dumb, but there's just people swinging, and like hurricane
yep.
quad
Well,
fights
it's
were a
like,
thing, and
look at little kids, they wrestle. You look at like animals, they wrestle and they play, and that's how they bond with each
yeah.
other. And
You
it's
look
like,
at
and I'm not
Marines.
You
saying
guys are
that Marines
children,
are,
crayons.
children
but it's
and animals all
but
together.
it's like,
we
I
can
mean,
say it. We're like
Yes,
overgrown children. It's all right,
right,
like
and
It's the
it's like,
crayons.
and that's and then the issue is you get yanked out of that and you go back to the civilian world and
yeah.
the normal world, and
You
it's
can't
like,
punch a guy and
no
bond with
one
him afterwards. You go to
yeah,
jail.
like no one does this. Like, it's like if I fight this guy, I'm gonna have to hate him,
Right.
because
Yeah, because
he,
he's gonna
and
arrest.
it's
He's
like,
gonna sue me. Like
yeah, he's gonna call the cops, and we're
Yeah.
gonna, then it's gonna be a whole big thing. When back in the barracks, it was like, I hate you right now, and they're like, cool, I hate you too. Like, you want to fight? Like, yeah, and then you fight,
Sure
and
do.
then like
Yeah.
the next day, you're like, hey, what's up?
It's like, hey, I hate you. You want to get a beer?
And then,
Yep.
yeah, like, man, that really sucked. You hit me really hard. You gotta, like, let's go get a drink, or it's just,
Yeah.
it's an environment that a lot of people don't understand, and that's fine. I mean, they're not going to.
Yeah.
But
What's
it's
crazy is in college, of all places, I started playing rugby, and really literally, like, I don't know how I got roped into it. My body's a mess anyway. It's like, hey, let's go beat it up some more, right?
right.
But like quite literally, the rugby community, like, we beat the crap out of each other on the pitch. Like, absolutely savage. There's some sucker punches and other things happen. I got ribs broken. I got my, hip flexor torn, and like, like I would walk out of there hobbling worse than I hobbled onto the pitch. And but afterwards it's the same, they call it the drink up, and everybody that you just beat the crap out of is sitting there drinking beer with you, and you're having a grand old time. And it's like, okay, so some places in the world outside of our military community that still
Yep.
exists, and like that's
Yep.
granted, we haven't had like a let's beat the crap out of each other peer event yet, but
Listen,
you
Fight Club became a movie
you can't
for a
talk about
reason.
it.
If you're telling me that
Right.
you don't think fight clubs are real, come on.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
real. You just
And
don't know about them
Yep.
because they're really good at not talking
Yeah.
about Fight Club. They followed
It's
the
rule number
rule.
one. It's
Rule number one, but
rule number
quite
one.
literally, like, that would be a really fun, like iron sharpens iron
I-
type. Like, let's beat
Yeah.
the crap out of each other. Let's
Yep.
drink a beer or not, whatever. Like, there's no issue with sobriety. I love sobriety. It's just I haven't had a drinking problem enough where it's like, hey, I probably need to just be completely sober. Like, I'm thankfully not an addictive personality where I can. Iraq, I smoked a pack of Marlboro Reds every single
I'll
day
never
of the
forget
week.
when I found that out. I
Yeah.
was like so like confused by it.
Listen, I smoked
Because he
them
doesn't
nonstop.
smoke ever. Like
Never.
he'll have like a cigar like every
Yeah.
once in a while.
Right.
But like I
Yep.
don't really consider that the same thing. But like it was so casual. You were talking about oh no. It was your friend was showing photos from you back.
Yeah.
I think not it was like right before you left. I don't know, whatever. But there was a photo of him smoking a cigarette. And I was like, what is that?
Who is that? Who is
Felt
that?
like
What
I was
is that
back
in
in
your
the
mouth?
DARE program. Just say no.
Every day of the week, man. I went. It was just something to do. It kept me alive. It kept me occupied on post, and that was Iraq was a lot.
And I'm
of
like, how
post.
long did you smoke? He's like, oh, I quit as soon as I got back.
Got home, didn't touch on it. Never again. I don't even have the desire.
Yeah.
Every now and then I'll puff on a cigar, and like I grew up, my dad was a smoker, never in the house, but like I still like when I like get that little whiff of like secondhand smoke. It like reminds me
Yeah.
of like that weird home scent, but like
The audacity.
I know it's
Yeah,
crazy. But,
how
so
dare you.
thankfully I don't have that type of personality where I I can enjoy something but not like, jump down the rabbit hole sometimes.
I mean, he's got ADHD.
I got
He'll
ADHD, yeah.
hyperfixate like
Right.
a motherfucker, but
Listen, I
Yeah.
spent like hey,
oh crap.
yeah,
I wasn't supposed to swear. Sorry.
well, just beep.
It's fine.
You can leave that out. It's not radio. I'm stuck on the fact that it's radio, and I'm gonna like
Right.
fine you
We
and
had
swear.
we were on a radio show and I had to have the talk with her like
I'm
100
trying
times,
really
like, you
hard.
cannot cuss on the radio. Like it's live. You cannot do that. Evan's writing down the timestamp. Like I gotta
the
put a
FC
beep in it. Yeah.
Bleep. The
I'm
FCC
trying
will be
really
all over
hard.
you.
And 42.
I swear, I
Yeah.
swear a lot.
They'll let Bad Bunny get up there and describe all the sexual acts that he wants to commit with people in Spanish, but you try and say a bad word on a radio show and the FCC is going to be down your throat. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Gotta
So
love
I'm
it.
trying really hard
Yeah.
not to. So
yeah.
if it looks like I'm buffering, it's because I'm trying to figure out a way to say it. without the
Wait.
swear.
Yeah. Usually when I have
Oh,
the
yeah,
goofy
yeah.
little smile and I'm like holding my mouth shut, it's like, don't say it, don't say it. This is how we got to process. And then I'll move my hand. It's like my subtitles are still on though. So
This is
My
your face,
subtitle,
yeah.
yes, my face is saying
yes.
what my mouth isn't. Oh, so getting back to just moral injury and, how do how personally, Kat, like, and Aaron, how do you guys treat it? Like, how do you like what is the treatment that you do for that?
I mean, there's clinical and non-clinical.
I was just gonna say.
Yeah.
So
So
Right.
I don't know if you want to talk about
I'll,
like for you, like kind of just how you've worked through it, I
And
guess.
I'd love to hear both because I'd love to hear how you've dealt with it because I know
Yeah.
you've dealt with it personally and I have as
right.
well. I would like to hear what you have done, but then I'd also like to hear like kind of the clinical side, from Kat, just how, it would be handled in a more formal clinical setting.
Yeah. I mean, for me, personally, I tried all the wrong things first, um,
Yeah.
which literally ended, everything I had built in my entire life and almost killed me. So don't follow that part of my story because I could write a book on what not to do.
Right.
I started drinking, I started doing all sorts of stuff just to try to fill that void because it was a void in my life, right? Like I felt let down by our entire government, really, by our nation, the grateful nation, spit on my friends' graves, spit on my parts of my soul that is gone. Um, doing what we did. And I get, that war couldn't go on forever, but give the keys to China, give the keys to anybody else but the Taliban, right? Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Just not the Taliban, because Taliban bad is what, our whole reality was. And then suddenly it's like, well, they're not so bad. We'll give them all your cool stuff. And, it's even a bigger slap in the face where I can't own an automatic weapon without jumping through hoops. And, I guess the tax stamp's gone now, but, um,
Well, it's
waiting
not
a bunch of
gone. It's
time.
it's
Well,
not gone. It's just they
it's not
just
gone.
reduced the price to zero.
Yeah, yeah,
So
which
then
is
the next administration will just make it more expensive again. So
yeah, go
side note,
figure. But
anyway.
side note, yeah, I paid the $200 version of it, but
Yeah,
they don't even give you a real stamp anymore. It's an electronic stamp. It's like
of
here's a
course.
$200
So
picture,
unsatisfying.
$200 picture in an email. It's like, oh,
Right.
cool.
Well, and that's the interesting thing about that is electronic things can just disappear, whereas
Yeah.
hard copies sometimes don't
Yeah,
disappear. So
mine's
that's just
printed
another
multiple
convenient,
times. I was gonna get it
you know,
tattooed on my arm or something.
this
It's right
just
here.
have a QR code on your
QR
forearm.
code.
Like, yeah, scan this.
Oopsie, he was too cheap to pay for that QR code. That takes you somewhere weird now. But didn't know that was a thing either.
Just
Sidebar,
tell the
but
ATF that it is your QR code, and
it
they have to scan
identifies
that.
as my
That's the
QR
and
code.
and and just have them scan it, and it just takes them to like some heinously atrocious website that that
Your
automatically pops up
website
on their phone.
that you paid
Brings
$3,000
you
for.
his meat
Yeah,
stencil
yeah,
around.
yeah. Like, go, yeah. Here you go. You're
Do,
welcome.
do,
Bye.
do, do. um, that's horrible. Um,
Yeah, you are horrible.
I can't help it. I really can't. But anyways,
You were talking about how you worked through your moral injuries, where you
yeah,
started with
clearly
that.
dark humor is been there. A lot for me actually going back to some of our best friends being people that we, fought in the military. The one civilian, I swear to God, I was gonna strangle him to death. You know, is actually now one of my best friends and sits on my board of directors. But
Oh, it's so
literally,
funny.
oh man, we met and it was a time. He loves a good conflict, and he hilariously has shared, on the internet the whole like, I knew I was wrong 10 minutes ago. Now I'm just trying to make you mad kind of thing. And that was he's not wrong. It's the most accurate meme for him. And I still now we joke. He's like, aren't you glad you didn't kill me back when you wanted to? I'm like, yeah, I guess I'm pretty happy, But him and his family literally took me in, after all that, my world fell apart, and they pulled me in, and he was also going through a rough breakup, and there's a lot of healing that happened, hunting and hiking and just talking smack to each other and just talking in general and just being real and present, and not being ashamed of where I've been and what I've done and that he and his family were some of the first people outside of like a really, really tight group of people that I shared all of me with, and they accepted me. And that was the craziest thing ever. Like there wasn't like this weird like, you're not good enough for us, so go away type thing. It was just, yep. will accept you at face value. The door's always open. You know, if you're hungry in this house, it's because you didn't open the fridge and eat the food. And it was just unconditional love, and it was crazy. Um, and so that saved my life, literally. Which is again why he's one of the only civilians sitting on my board really that doesn't work in mental health or anything else. But the kid's got the biggest heart. He's a full grown adult. He has a daughter. He's mostly married.
He's a kid.
Like he's not a
He's
kid.
perpetually 12.
He and I are.
And I hope he listens to this and hears that.
We are perpetually 12 together. Like he would have made a really, really awesome Marine, really, truly.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he would have been he would be, yeah.
He'd be showing people his nutsack just because he could.
Like I said.
Really, yeah.
It's but
when you pay on what was it? OnlyVets.
OnlyVets.
That's where you'll figure out the inside joke of that story.
The centipede story.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
The centipede story.
You're welcome.
On OnlyVets. Yeah, here's my QR code.
Centipede story. Centipede story.
But it's the same QR code I showed at the ATF for my tax stamp.
Right, yeah.
You got to pay for that, sir. It's $200 to view my stamp.
It's $200 to view my stamp. You better have level 4 plates on, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Highly classified.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, a lot of the way I dealt with it was quite literally, talking about it. And there was a lot I kept inside, and that literally almost killed me, quite literally. And sharing it and talking about it. And I experienced a lot of really, really, really bad therapists, again, VA. But I also experienced a really great therapist that worked for me and what I could afford and couldn't afford and everything else. And she was actually at the Vet Center, which is a VA affiliated sort of. They're like one disconnection. So actually, your records there your mental health records don't necessarily get shared back to the main VA unless you sign a waiver. Which is nice because it insulates what you say and do, but it's still covered, inside the VA network, and you don't have to deal with a bunch of other stuff. So I'm not saying there's all bad therapists at the VA or vet centers or anything else, but the vet center was more of a lifeline than not for me in that process. And now I've discovered that there's like therapists like her and others that are like civilians that don't hate us and will actually protect us, which is
you
weird.
guys are all right.
Sometimes.
I think you guys are hilarious.
Bandit, quiet down. Grief, dog. Nobody tuned in to listen to you. I mean, they probably like you better than me anyway, but geez. So I don't know about you guys. I really love dogs. My dogs are their friends, their pets. But to some people, dogs can really make a huge difference, especially when you go through a company like Guardian Angel Medical Service Dogs. Guardian Angel Medical Service Dogs is a nonprofit dedicated to empowering veterans and first responders and other individuals with disabilities by providing highly trained service dogs that help people regain independence and improve their quality of life. These service dogs are trained to assist with all kinds of things from PTSD to traumatic brain injury to mobility challenges and seizure and diabetic disorders and even hearing impairments. So these dogs they just change people's lives. And if you are in need of a dog or you feel like you could use one, go to Guardian Angel Medical Service Dogs and click on the apply for a dog tab and just see if you're even a good fit for one. Also, if you want to donate to assist in the training and housing and feeding and supplying of these dogs, go to Guardian Angel Medical Service Dogs and go to the monthly Paw Prints Club. Your donation enables these critical mission operations such as veterinary care, housing, food, professional training, constant communication with the disabled individuals before, during, and after matching them with a service dog, and continued support throughout the service dog's life, including training and veterinary assistance long after they've received the dog. So if you guys want to make a difference in veterans' lives, this is a great way to know that your money is being used in that way, and your gift can make a life-changing impact. And remember, together, we can unleash the power to heal.
So,
yeah. And so for me, it was sharing stuff. It was trusting people after having been hurt 1,000 times and just, just like anything else you do, learning to ride a bicycle as a kid, right? You like fall down, you get up, it hurt. You trust that it's eventually going to work and just keep going back and back and back. And for a time, my daughter was the only reason I had to stay alive, and keep fighting. And that it doesn't really matter what your reason is, but finding that reason to live and to heal and to be better is the most important thing you can ever do, because at that point you're no longer suffering or enduring something just for you. You're doing it for someone else or something else, and that matters. Because again, right, like I there's a billion things I've done in my life for other people that I would never, ever, ever do for myself, just because I don't do things like that for myself. And I think a lot of service members and first responders are the same exact way.
Mhm.
So that for me is, again, Labyrinth does what we do on the non-clinical side, peer groups and everything else, quite literally for that reason. We have good chats, we have good, adventures and stuff, and it just breaks that barrier because we all realize it's a bunch of vets and first responders that all share a very similar dark humor and experiences, and we start chatting about those things, and naturally through the course of, especially like our horseback ride days, by lunchtime we're all chirping at each other and talking smack because we've all done something absolutely ridiculous to start the day, and we're all, like
Right.
it's priceless. It was like this weird test to see if it would work, and it works real well.
Worked really good.
And so,
I didn't
by
get to
the end
go.
of
I
the
want to go horseback riding.
dude,
Jeez,
come on out.
Fly out.
We'll fly you out. Well, let's go.
But you
get
got
it.
to bring your wife too.
I
Didn't even get.
actually,
Yeah. I mean,
actually,
man.
Her and
no,
I-
this is a
her and I
great
can
plan. Ooh, that's an even better plan.
You guys can go do whatever.
But yeah, Kat's like definitely allergic to horses, and so we discovered that she like ate half a bottle of Benadryl to stay
Oh,
alive.
it was bad.
It was so bad. Her eyes were
My left
she was
eye was
dying.
like starting to close,
It was horrible.
and it was
Oh man.
I can't even remember who it was. It was
So
one
you have
of
a
the people
horse
there.
allergy.
Like walked over and he's like,
Are you gonna make it?
"Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think."
You look
And he's
like
like, "Are
you
you
look like
allergic to
you
horses?"
look like
And I was like,
Will Smith. You look like Will Smith
"Oh
from
my
Hitch.
god!"
And he's like,
No, literally. But I had no idea.
I'm
I
like,
had
honey, I think
written-
you need like, do you want my inhaler?
No,
like an
you were busy
EpiPen.
talking to
Like,
somebody else as I was dying. And so one of our volunteers who goes to the farm and like rides her horse there was like, "I think I have Benadryl in my car. Do you want some?" And I was like, "Yeah." So she's like, "How many do you want?" I was like, "All of them."
All of them.
Just give me
Anything
the
that
bottle.
you have.
Yeah.
And so she was kind enough to
Uh.
give me like 4. So I took 2 like
Yeah.
instantly. And then
Space the
I
others
was
out.
doing okay. The problem is I wasn't touching my eyes with my hands, but I rubbed my eye on my shirt that
Yeah.
had
Which had
horse
horsehair on
hair
it.
all over
Yeah,
it.
it was a time. But
And
anyways,
so now
Oh,
I've
my
learned to
word.
pace my
Yeah.
Benadryl.
Those
Because I
dates
took
are
like a
about-
12-hour coma when we got home that day because I had so much Benadryl. We got home at like 4, and I didn't wake up, I think, until like 11 o'clock the next morning.
It was horrible. She was still like dying. Yeah, I like had to come down and check her pulse a couple times. Like,
It was a really
Yeah.
good nap.
full on EMT.
Wow.
I didn't
This is a
start a
really
rubber,
good
but I'm
nap.
like, yeah, she still has a pulse. Like she's barely breathing. It's okay. She'll survive.
There's a lot of Benadryl.
But yeah, we're about to release those dates, so let's find one that works for you guys to come on out and visit or something.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
We'd
And
You
love
could
that.
bring the horde of children
bring
too.
the horde of children.
have
Yeah.
Visit our horde of children.
children, so.
Explore New England before
We
it's
would love
cold and
that.
miserable. But that would be
Yeah.
fun.
Yep.
But yeah, so anyways, that's the non-clinical-ish side, and then clinical side of dealing with moral
Oh,
injury.
shit. Yeah.
She lost. There you go again, cussing.
Crap.
She
Sorry.
shit. God damn it.
That was you that time.
We're gonna
sound
have
like a
a digital
robot.
swear. We're gonna have a digital swear jar, and I'm just gonna keep hitting like ticking, ticking, ticking.
That-
Coins just
oh,
getting
I'm
thrown
gonna-
in.
that would be
so
really
much money
fun.
by the
Yeah,
end of
just
this.
pop your
It's not
Venmo up, like
Can I get like a GoFundMe so other people can pay
for you
what
to
I
cuss
owe?
all
Right.
That would
Yes.
be
Yeah.
funnier.
Yeah.
That would be sponsor my
Sponsor my
addiction.
cursing.
Yeah. Scan the QR code.
You're gonna appreciate this.
Centipede story.
Look, yeah.
Every time
Yeah.
you say scan the QR code, that's all I'm going to think
Yes.
about is that it goes
Yep.
to the centipede story.
I'm just gonna.
Okay.
I got an Amazon package, and so you were drinking your energy
Yes.
drink, and
Yep.
it made me think about it.
Did you have
but,
to bring the camera?
Nice.
Yeah. Well, no, I had to open
You
the
can't.
package.
I mean, you have to open it with something.
Yeah. and
can't use
why
your
not?
Fingers.
It's not the good one that I had in country, but I had to buy one right afterwards. So it's a real
Yeah.
legit
I say that's a good one. That's a
It's a-
legit
it's a good one.
bayonet.
true story. Yeah, from Ontario. I've never seen a brand new one. It was weird because it like had like
Yeah.
coating on the blade that I'm like, that's not a real one.
Like,
And then I
this
found
is
out
this is
Yeah.
fake.
the rubber on the
Like, no.
on the
It's not
grip
even
is still
real.
there, and it's like
Yeah,
it's like
you're like-
rubbery, not like rock hard. It's like, oh, that's weird. But anyways, rip
What
it.
is this? Yeah.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I just
Gotta go to the
pictured
dollar
you
store and
standing up
get
for
some.
shotgun or rip it.
Amazon, man. You know, get a whole case of them for.
Nice.
They're usually at our riding days too, is the running thing, and then.
The first time he ordered them, I put them in the fridge.
You want to know the first time I ordered
Just to
them?
wreck it.
I was on Facebook.
How dare you?
He literally, I was so funny. He opened the fridge. He's like, "What did you do?"
What?
I'm like, "I made them cold for you."
I made them cold.
I put them back out on the porch.
Yeah.
But
it was summer.
The hilarious thing is, I hadn't thought about them in I don't know how long, and then some guy had this post on the internet about how to properly drink or rip it.
What a dork.
Yeah.
What a weirdo.
Yeah, what a weirdo.
He probably doesn't even have a real website.
This is like over last summer before we had met, and I'm like, oh,
he had
I'm
to
getting
buy his
those things.
website.
He had to buy his website for $3,000.
Spend a bunch of money. Gosh.
What a noob.
Oh,
and so
what a dork.
I literally I blame you. So I don't know who actually owns Rip It, but they owe you money because you're a great advertisement for them. Wasn't already the unofficial fuel combat.
I've tried. I've like tagged them in several videos just to like see if they would ever say anything. They've never even responded. Like I don't even care if they like sponsor me or anything like that.
That's the most Rip It
I wanted them to
ever,
just.
Though.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they're like, oh hey, thanks for advertising for us. We don't care.
Right.
You'll get
Literally.
some copyright infringement like lawsuits.
Yeah, they're like,
dude, I made you money.
Like, bro, I was like, helping you.
We don't need you.
This podcast is your defense in court. Like, no, I made these guys are buying your product as a reminder because of me. You know, you're welcome.
Right.
Dirtbags.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
They don't taste the same. There's too much water in it. Like I gotta
I don't know.
Put it
so
on the
I
oven
talked
and
to a
boil
guy. Somebody said, and I don't believe them. He said he got sent a case of the mini ones, and I was like, I don't believe you, because like he was in America, and like I talked to him. No, like he claimed they sent him one, and I was like, I don't believe you. I don't even remember who it was, but there's a guy that I talked to that said they're not allowed to sell the mini ones in America for some reason.
Too much caffeine per ounce.
I think so, yeah, and it was something weird, like. Anyway, it was just hilarious that, you know, I put it out there one time. I was like, if somebody's in country, like, could you just like snag me a mini one and just bring it back for me? Like, just put it in your bag and bring it back. I have to let you. I don't know if you'd be able to get it through customs and everything else, but if you can, just
man, they
bring
search you really, really good. Like
they
I
do.
had
They
a slap round that I maybe wanted to bring home, and not even the round, just the projectile, because I'm like, this would be really cool to have, right? Like I want to make a necklace with the tungsten. Oh no, no, I got in a lot of trouble.
No, I believe that.
Yeah, we had a guy. It was really interesting. This is a side note, little story.
Side quest.
We got to customs and they're running this dude, and this is coming back from Afghanistan. And so I mean, we've been in gunfights and we had people get shot, but this guy never got shot, never wasn't one of the people that was involved in a lot of heavy fighting. And they put his flak through the X-ray machine, and they pull him aside and they're like, come here. They pull his plate out and they're like, dude, there's a bullet in your plate. And they're like, he's like, what? And they run it through again. Like they pull it out of the plate carrier and they run it through just the SAPI plate. They run it through and they're like, look right here. And you could see where it had come in through the side and like gotten like in between like the Kevlar and the ceramic plate and gotten stopped. And he never even knew it. Never even knew it.
That's
and he
crazy.
went, I mean, we have no idea how long, you know, we don't know when it happened. We don't know how it happened, but he was a quarter of an inch from being dead, because it was like right on it. If that had hit him underneath the arm there, he'd have been dead. I mean, that would have gone right through his lungs, and toast.
One of our scout snipers, he actually got out from enlisted and ended up he's now an officer, so he went like full like stallion or whatever, but like we called him Lucky Jack. It's Jack Louder. He's out there somewhere. I'm sure he'll end up watching this, but he got shot exactly that through the titty.
Ouch.
Like
I don't think you can say that either.
No, I said titty.
Yeah,
that's all right. But from the side, same thing, through and then, you know, finally got, you know, medevaced or whatever. There was a whole rigmarole with that, and some of our mortarmen were actually out with him on like patrol, because we were like the utility knife of the company.
Yep.
It's like, hey, the mortars are going to hit posts and they're going to shoot mortars and they're going to go on patrol and they're going to run trucks and they're going to just do absolutely everything because they can, which only got crazy when like there was a call for fire, and it's like, no, what do we do? Like there's just too many jobs and not enough us.
We do that? Wait, we do that? I don't
That's
even.
weird. I mean, we actually got to shoot mortars in country. It was really cool. I
That's
got
I
to
was gonna
run a
say that.
gun line of 8 tubes when we were doing the rep, finally getting ready to
Jeez,
leave. I got to chief 8 tubes firing,
nice.
which was really cool because that
That's
just
a lot of
that's a
it's a lot of
lot of
a lot of
HE,
lead,
a lot of boom.
a lot of
Uh,
explosives. That
you know,
sounds amazing.
it was really
Like
like
he's like picturing it in his
cool.
head. You
Yeah,
can see
it
I
it.
was
am.
cool. I mean,
I
we had
can
a
hear. I
couple
can hear it. I can hear it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
we had a couple
like,
Like that
really
dog
really
gif.
smell it.
awesome
Yeah.
mortar incidents. You know, like again, divine intervention. Like one of them, and I got chewed for this. Being an O3, you understand, like, you know, you call for immediate suppression, we're suppressing. Like we fire. You call it, we're sending them around as fast as we possibly can. Well, we were supposed to have like the JTAC clear us for
You mean like the airplanes
maybe
and stuff,
move, yeah, everything else out of our
right? Like, don't fly through this
trajectory.
area because there's like bombs literally flying through the air. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so that was SOP, but nobody had ever called immediate suppression before this moment. We just moved to the, oh yeah, you know where this is going already. We just moved to the new combat outpost. Base plates aren't sunk, you know, so like the bottom, kind of like your little mic stand, is like
Yep.
sitting up off the ground. So usually the first
Yep.
round you have somebody standing on it to sink it,
Yep.
whatever. Never, ever, ever hits the right target. Ever. Right.
Yeah.
And so they call immediate suppression. Oh yeah. Yeah. I
There's,
don't know
it's like
where.
there's a recipe for disaster at this point. But
I
go
got a
ahead,
picture
please.
of it somewhere.
Continue.
So this gunfight happens, and there's like all hell is broken loose. They're fighting this building, and they're just everybody's getting shot at. You can hear it. It's not that fight. It's like 1,500 meters away or whatever. They call immediate suppression. Okay, let's go. So we spin it up or whatever, and I'm like, I looked at Chris Flores was plotting with me, and I don't even know where the FDC chief was, but I'm like, I'm the assistant chief. He's missing somewhere, probably in the burn toilet. And I looked at Flores and he's like, well, it's immediate suppression. I'm like, I know we got to fire, but I think we need clearance, but it's immediate suppression. Let's fire.
Send it.
I yell the data out to the gun. They get it up, whatever. And my best friend, who we've talked about on a couple events, was the gun leader. So the gun gets up. The A gunner drops the round. No one's standing on the base plate, mind you. The A gunner drops the round and it hangs. So SOP for a hang fire is you slap the shit out of the barrel. So he does.
Adjusting
the tube goes
trajectory
straight up, basically, straight up in the air. Bipods kick out from under it. Boom! Collapses on the ground. From down the hall, I hear the company commander.
Could go wrong.
Oh no, it gets worse. I hear the company commander. Who the just sent that round? Well, I messed up.
Not I,
You're
sir.
You're looking around like, yeah,
Well,
who
weird.
was that?
Flores.
You're in trouble.
If nothing else, and I will say this with all honesty, I was the world's worst Marine when it came to being like stateside, but I was a damn good combat Marine. And I integrity is something I take pride in. So I was like, I did, sir. I gave the order and this is why. And he's like, well, what's the time of flight? And it was like 15 seconds, 16 seconds. And we're like 3 seconds into me like having my soul ripped out. I'm like, it's 15 seconds, whatever it was. He's like, well, you have that much time to pray to God that doesn't hit the wrong target. He's like, because if it does, enjoy Leavenworth. If it doesn't, I'll take the blame for it. Now, the saving grace is
if it kills someone, it's your fault. If it doesn't, I'll take the blame.
And that's the
deal.
Military.
So
there's the military in a nutshell.
I don't know who was controlling that round in the air, but it wasn't me, and it was sure as heck wasn't dumb luck. But every time we're sinking a plate, we always put the fuse on delay. That way, if it does hit the wrong spot, it's not air bursting, it's bursting, and there's a smaller kill radius, right? That round goes through the top of the building that they're shooting out of and pinning our guys down. Goes into the second floor of the building and blows up, and it was burning for like days. We took out a whole cat. I'm not even kidding. The entire gunfight stopped. Boom, nothing, and I'm like, oh, I
killed all of them.
Everyone's dead.
No. My brain went to I just hit an MRAP. Like that's where my brain went. I'm like, I'm going to jail, and it's my own fault.
Talk about moral injury.
Yeah, the thing.
Sorry, that was probably really dark. That's instantly where my brain went.
Literally,
that is some shit right there.
Literally, the mortar manual says immediate suppression is immediate suppression, right? So we've now deviated from the manual, and that was going to be my, when I went to my military tribune, I was going to say that on the stand.
That's what
thing goes off, and it hit the target. Like the gunfight ended, but it was just this eerie silence. And I'm like, jail. I am going to jail. And it was almost like one of those like comms come back over, and it's like almost one of those like Star Wars moments where R2D2 shuts off the trash crusher. They're like, ah, like there was excitement, but also like shit. And I'm like, did I kill anybody? Like, and I'm laughing now, right? I was so scared that I did the wrong thing while thinking I was doing the right thing. So scared. The round hit, and literally as we're leaving Afghanistan, this is before General Nicholson was in charge of like the entire battle space, but he was just in charge of the MEP.
Right.
And he like had, the whole battalion there, and he's like, where's my 81 section, with the show stopping round or something like.
Yeah.
I'm still getting NJP'd for this, I swear. I'm like, that was us, sir. He's like, that was awesome, like, so it's just like this, like, yeah, you have no idea how bad I was worried about that,
It was awesome because it was awesome.
It was awesome because
could have been not awesome.
Sheer dumb luck. But anyways, so that was my, in-country experience. That was the coolest thing that happened in the military, was like the one accidental success. And I have success. Someone took a picture of the gun set up. One of my staff sergeants sitting on the berm, like aiming out, but like looking back in, and then like the gun is sitting there, like not yet fired. They're prepping the round, twisting the fuse or whatever. And I'm like, that was the moment before my moment of like absolute like
panic.
It was the moment of my greatest glory that could have been my greatest downfall.
You know that sinking feeling you get like when you got off the bus and you got on the yellow footprints, and every single Marine out there can like literally relate to this. You got off the bus and got on the yellow footprints, and you're like, what did I just do to myself? What did I sign up for?
Made a mistake.
I messed up.
Made a grave error.
It was that moment, right? And it's for everybody else that hasn't ever stood on the yellow footprints, it's I just got on the real scary roller coaster, and she's rolling towards that hill, and there's nothing I can do about it except for hang on for dear life. Here we go. And like, imagine that times like 6,000, and that's that feeling. And that was the scariest thing in my entire service. There were a lot of different things that happened, and I should have died in a lot of times. That was the most scared I was, like through the whole thing. I'm like, if I die in a gunfight, like that's gonna suck, right?
Right.
Not for me necessarily. I'll be dead, right? Like I won't care. But like if I killed another Marine because I messed up, like that would be the worst, like worst thing that could ever happen is that, And so it's like, and the fact that like, again, we've talked about this before. I didn't intend to come home from Afghanistan, and like whoever was sitting there, praying for me at home, that round hit the target for.
You did good.
Because I had obviously bigger purposes in life than dying in country, or obviously messing up and killing my friends. And so the round hit the target. Don't know how. Divine intervention is the only thing I can blame it on. And I didn't go to jail. So, here we are.
Hey,
but
you're still young. You could still go to jail if you wanted.
It's
never too late to fulfill your
it's
dreams.
never too late.
But not for that, not for that. This is,
yeah.
It'll be different.
We could go,
it'll
like
be for something way cooler.
Rob a casino. Yeah.
It'd be fun. Yeah. Either way, you're not going to have to pay for food or housing for the next 10 years.
Exactly. We got,
You get to wear Crocs.
I could wear Crocs.
You used to work in a jail.
Orange jumpsuit.
Depends.
Hey, listen, my snowmobile suit is orange and black, and I look good in it. So,
Hey, there you go.
Let's
go in there. It's going to be one of those brown prison suits, and you're like, no, I don't do brown. I do orange.
Yeah, listen, I didn't work for UPS for a reason. Can I have the orange one?
You can have the.
I came prepared for orange.
Yeah.
Brown.
Yeah, come on. I did my makeup and all my clothes, all my accessories match orange. Like I'm oranged out here. Come on.
Yeah.
So Kat, regarding like clinical moral injury treatment, like what I have no idea like what that even I've talked to an Anglican priest who he works at the VA, and he has a huge, he did like a whole, he's like a certified moral injury I don't want to say expert. There's a word he used.
Guru.
Anyway, he had to write like the book he wrote is like, it's like it was like a 3-inch binder, and it's just full of stuff that he had to write to get the certification on it. And he, he kind of he talked about it a little bit, but I'm still like, I don't really understand. I don't know. Maybe you can kind of clear that up, just the clinical side.
So I think in the past, moral injury has been treated in a similar fashion to PTSD because there are similarities in like the symptom presentation. Um, However, like if you look at the research being done, like PTSD will traditionally resolve faster than moral injury because they're not the same thing. Um, and so I found, this isn't, I guess, like backed by research, but like anecdotally, just through the work that I've done with my clients, um, I think it really just comes down to two things. And I think the first one being connection, and the second being a curiosity for what's next. And so I think that connection can look like a multitude of different things. Maybe it's a connection to a person or to a place or to a mission or a goal or some type of identity piece. Um, and that connection needs to carry a pretty decent level of vulnerability. Like, I think that, what Aaron was describing, in terms of him being able to bond with his friend's family. And it wasn't just that he could bond with them, it was that he could bond with them knowing all of these things that he hadn't shared before, or that maybe other people had learned but had given him more shame for, or, it ruptured the connection that he had because of what he shared, as opposed to in this instance, he was able to share it and be vulnerable. Sorry, I'm talking about you like a case study, and I'm not
I
trying
know
to.
that's I'm
It's just a really
forever
good example of like
forever
what
the
I'm
guinea
trying to
pig,
get at.
That's it's
Yeah.
just it is what it is.
But it
Sit
it
down and be quiet, guinea
Yeah,
pig.
I volunteer as tribute.
it created a level of vulnerability that could work through the barrier of shame that the moral injury that he had like created, right? Is moral injury is basically sitting in there and saying like, there is something inherently wrong with me now. There's a piece of me that's missing that can't come back. I can't be who I was. I'm not who I was. And what is then like asking my clients to slow down with that of like, okay, so then what does that mean about you? Right? So you violated something that was really sacred and important and impactful for you, and how you view yourself. So what does that say about you? What does that mean? It's I'm unlovable, I'm not enough, I should have known better, I should have done better. Um, I think for a lot of vets that come back, there's moral injury involved of like, I didn't do enough to save my guys that didn't come back. And so what's so great about me that I get to be here and they don't? And what does that mean that I'm here and they're not? Um, and so I think that those connections, right, again, whether it's to a person or a place that's meaningful, or, like a mission, like Aaron says all the time, like, Labyrinth isn't just like a hobby or something that he, kind of like fell into in the sense of, oh, this would be fun. Like it fulfills him, and it fulfills that piece that did get taken, from the things that he had to do, um, and so I think that connection is sort of that first piece, and the level of vulnerability is important. And the second is that curiosity for the future. Like Aaron was kind of talking about it a little bit, like finding that thing that you're, I don't want to say going to live for, because it's not really what I mean. But I talk with clients all the time that are struggling with this idea of like, I call it the should I stay or should I go dilemma, because I have dark humor. It's probably not always the best.
You work so well with us, though.
It's also a really good song. Anyway,
Yep.
Now it's stuck in my head now.
sorry,
Yep.
yeah, sorry. Anyway, when dealing with that, right, it's enough to just be curious about the future, right? Like, and I think that oftentimes, like if a client has children or a spouse or a mom or just someone that they care about in their life, it's not necessarily just like, I love this person so much that I'm going to stay. And I think that that's something that survivors of someone who is passed a suicide struggle with, right? Is like, did they not love me enough to stay? And it never has anything to do with that. But I think that going even beyond that of like, can you be curious about what the future holds with that person, and just, sorry, I feel bad using you as an
I
example,
Go for it.
but like when it comes to like a kid, right? It's like, can you be curious about their high school graduation, their marriage, their own child, them, buying a house for the first time or finding an apartment for the first time? Like, can you be curious about what it would be like to experience those things with your kid? Because oftentimes that future orienting is what creates that curiosity and creates that desire of, I want to be here to see that. I want to be here to experience that. And so it encourages them to think beyond of just, it's not just about that I love this person and I want to stay. It's what are these things in the future that I can actually think about and envision and romanticize and, look forward to. Um, and so I think that regardless of, I guess, the modality, right, that I might utilize to get a client there, um, it really ultimately comes down to how do they move beyond what that inner voice is now telling them about themselves because of this moral injury, and can they open up to see that nothing has necessarily changed in terms of that big picture, right? They still have people in their life that care about them and love them and accept them for exactly who they are, regardless of what they've done or what they've seen or what has happened to them. And can they be curious and find something that they're looking forward to in their life that they deserve to have, regardless of what they've seen or what they've done or what was done to them?
It's interesting that you brought up curiosity, because in that book, The Body Keeps the Score, and I keep going back to that just because it was a really good book, and it really,
This one right here.
yeah, yeah, that one. He talks about how trauma can cause people to lose their ability to see themselves in the future, and that causes them to lose their ability to be curious because they're just reliving that cycle of trauma, and they have a hard time seeing beyond that. And that's one thing that I had talked about. I don't remember what it was. I think it was a post that I had done just talking about we need to get our curiosity back just because we've lost it. And I understand that it's hard to see past it, but seeing yourself in the future and seeing and visualizing yourself in the future doing these things with your family or with your kids or with your dog or with, you know, with other people, with people that you're serving, whatever it is. And then, kind of visualizing what you want. I mean, you talk to any great athlete. Michael Jordan was huge on this, was visualizing, his success. He's like, I shot thousands of free throws. He's like, but I visualized myself making millions of free throws. He's like, I just visualized it over and over and over and over again, just until it became missing a free throw wasn't something he could even conceptualize. And that doesn't mean that he never missed them, but his mind was so set on, I'm never going to screw this up because he visualized it repeatedly. And that's when someone's been traumatized, and this is again from what I've read, they have a hard time picturing themselves in the future and seeing that. But it's my opinion, and I could be wrong, but I feel like it's one of those things that if you continue to practice it, it's going to get easier, and just taking those steps of, okay, like, and starting small, like, what do you want to do? Like, what are you doing right now that you want to do? Or what do you think that you want to do in the future? I want to, and then they say, well, I want to be, I don't know, whatever, a coach at the school. Okay, fine. So visualize yourself being a coach, visualize yourself sitting down with the kids and talking to them, running them through drills and just little things like that. Or I want to, I see my wife and I having a kid, and visualizing, your wife being pregnant, visualizing, your wife having the baby, visualizing getting up at night to take care of the baby. And, just working through those mental processes of visualizing yourself in those situations, I think can really help pull you out of that, out of the now, because the now, everybody, all your problems are right here and you can't see past them. And when you start visualizing into the future, you're pushing that kind of out of the way and you're looking past it. And then the more you do that, the less obtrusive it becomes. And I think it's just really interesting that you brought that up, because that's a big thing because you think about a veteran, a young guy or girl joining the military, they're super curious. Like, they're like, I'm going to boot camp. I'm excited. I mean, they're probably scared and nervous too, but there's that excitement of a new adventure. And then when you go to get out of the military, there's that excitement, but it's more apprehensive, and you're like, I don't know. And then you get out and all of a sudden it's like, now what? And I don't know, it feels flat. I don't know. And I haven't quite worked through that in my mind, is like that, where that analogy goes. It's just, I feel like when you leave the military, there's that excitement at first, and then it just like drops off, and then you're just like, now what do I do?
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Well,
It's
I think,
some people are better at it than others, but
yeah, but I mean, I view that like, so I started my career in substance use treatment. And so, um, it's a side quest, but I swear it goes right back into what you're talking about.
As long as we
Um,
keep track.
So,
yeah,
in substance use treatment, we talk a lot about like medication assisted treatment. So, like methadone, Suboxone, naltrexone, all of that stuff. And so, jury's out. Is it effective? Is it just, like the medical community giving them their next fix, whatever? I'm not going to argue anything about that. But what I will say is the way that our brain becomes addicted to something is, essentially linked back to dopamine, right? And so the brain naturally creates dopamine when something is better than expected or anticipated, right? So you show up to work one day and you get a raise, like boom, spike in dopamine, you feel great. You go out to eat and like the dinner you got is like 10 times better than you thought it was going to be. Boom, dopamine, right? When we look at addictive substances or addictive behaviors, the idea, right, is what's happening in the brain is it's creating such a huge spike in dopamine that your brain can't make on its own, right?
yeah,
And so inevitably, the more that you use that, right, you're continuing, right? And your brain, just like the rest of your body, wants equilibrium. It wants to maintain a certain level. And so if you're utilizing that substance long enough or you're engaging in that behavior long enough, your brain will stop making all of these things because it wants to find a balance and it's anticipating getting more of these things from the substance, from the behavior. And so then when you get rid of those substances, you become sober, you're in recovery, your brain doesn't just like pop back online. It's like, oh, okay. I almost did it again, but I caught myself. Did you see
Mhm.
that? It doesn't just say like,
$5 in the swear jar.
no, because I didn't say it. It doesn't just say, oh crap, like that's so great. We're in recovery now. I'm going to just, pump back online and start making all this stuff again. It sits there and waits because it's still anticipating it. And, for most substances, it takes about a year of continued sobriety for your brain to be like, oh crap, I should probably start making this again. And so that first year in recovery, most people are feeling like absolute dog crap because their brain's not making any of the happy chemicals because it's still waiting around for them to be introduced into the system. And so, it was the most common thing in the world. I'd have clients coming in being like, if this is what recovery feels like, I don't want it. I feel like shit all the time. I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing, and I still feel like shit.
Mm.
Um, and so I honestly view, and again, this is not research. I don't do like brain science, but like I really feel like it's a very similar process, especially for combat vets. When they come back and they get out of the military, it's like your brain got used to this certain level of like dopamine and adrenaline from being in a combat, especially if you had like a lot of gunfire and whatever else, but then you get into civilian life and there's nothing in the civilian world that mimics that. There just isn't, unless you become a drug lord and then like are hopping the
It's
border
always
all
an
the time.
option. I mean, really.
But like there's like and again, like I look at that, like if you look at the pipeline of vets that then move into first responder duties, right? EMT, fire, police, dispatch, corrections, right? Like the pipeline is basically a straight line, right? Because these are professions that have those spikes in adrenaline that feel familiar, but again, still are never going to be remotely the same. But I really view it as like a very parallel, similar process of you guys are coming back and your brain has adjusted to something that you can't possibly recreate, you know?
yeah.
Well, and I
I
think
think you're onto something more accurate than you even realize, because the military itself, just the whole lifestyle, is a dopamine rush.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
You guys are
because it's
talking about
always
having fights in the barracks. Like
yeah,
you could be rolling with someone at any moment. That doesn't
yeah,
happen in the civilian world.
challenge
right,
my stake.
I
yeah,
dropped my kid off at school this morning. I'm not looking at the secretary like I could fight her. Let's do it.
yeah.
No, she's a nice lady. Yeah,
She's
we
wicked
don't want
nice.
to
I
Yeah.
fight
love
her.
both of them.
I mean, but we could still fight and be friends. It'll be fun.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Right.
it's like it's a constant. Like you get up and you go to work, right? And if you're, no matter what you do in the military, you really don't know what the day is going to hold. You have a pretty good idea of what it's going to hold, but there can always be something that's like unexpected. So you're kind of always on the edge of your seat, right? And then something happens and you're like, oh, you get a dopamine rush. And then it's like, you just, and then you're there for like a year or two, and then you get moved. And then it's a new adventure. You got to move, you got to settle into a new unit. You got new people to make friends with. You got all this stuff going on, and then you get deployed. And then that's another rush. It's a new adventure. You got to get all this stuff packed up. You got to leave your family. You got to go overseas. Then you come back, and that's a huge dopamine rush because now you're home with your friends and family again. You have all the fun, and you go through this cycle repeatedly, especially when you deploy multiple times. And then you get out, and that it just slams to a stop. And your brain is like you said, it's expecting that dopamine rush. You don't have it. There's nothing there to give it because now you're selling insurance like I was. And it's like, I hate my life. Like, I hate what I'm doing. And it wasn't
If this is
necessarily
what
just selling
recovery
insurance.
feels
It was
like, I don't want it.
right. And that's why so many people, guys, go back into the military or they get into, law enforcement or, first responder, firefighter, whatever. And I'm just, I feel like you just hit something that I hadn't thought of before. That's really powerful and just way more accurate than I think you realize because, and maybe you do realize it. I'm just saying I hadn't
No,
realized it. And
that's just me spitballing.
yeah, but I
I feel
think
like this is the
it's
tire moment all over again.
right. It's 100% accurate though, because people don't realize how different the lifestyle of the military is. Even if you're a you know, a guy working in admin or supply or whatever it is, where you don't really do a whole lot, adrenaline wise, you still have PT tests. You still have, the rifle range. You still have all these different annual trainings you have to do that involve things that 99% of the population doesn't ever get to experience. And it's just that, and I think guys that are in combat MOSs or, I don't know, yeah, I would just say combat MOSs experience this a little bit more just because they go through these things all the time. But I feel like the military as a whole is just one big dopamine rush for as long as you're in. And then like you said, your brain stops producing those chemicals or it's waiting for the stimulus to produce the chemicals. And there's not, it's again, it's like if you're a drug addict and you take, you inject, again, I don't know. I don't inject heroin, never have. I'm saying, like, just an example, you inject a milligram of heroin and you get high, right? You keep doing that. Eventually you're going to have to inject 2 and then 3 and then 5 and then 10. So as the military career goes along, the stimulus is the injection and then your body reacts to it. So like the stimulus from the military is all this stuff that's happening and your body keeps reacting to it. And then you get out and there's like stimulus that happens, but it's very, very, very small. It's like that 1 milligram dose that it doesn't do anything for you anymore. So you're like, well, this sucks. Like, I hate my life. I hate myself. Like everything, I'm just a failure because I can't do anything. I have no energy. I'm just, flat. And my life feels flat. My life feels pointless. And man, that was an epiphany.
I mean, you're not
Sorry.
wrong though, right? Like,
no, it's really good. Cause again, I've been questioning and I've had it asked to me, why do people struggle to get out of the military? And I think that you just said is one of the biggest reasons that everybody at some level struggles to get out. And some people are better at it than others, just the same as everybody has different personalities. But, you got someone like Aaron and me who just live for the adrenaline rush, right? And then you go overseas and you're like, I'm not planning on coming home. If I do come home, it's only by accident, and it's like, and then you continue doing all these things and then you get out and it's just, I don't know. I think your brain gets used to having the heavy stimulus of you don't know what's coming. And when it does come, even if it makes you mad, it's still a stimulus and it's still giving you that rush of whatever. And then you get out of the military and your life is my problem. One of my biggest issues personally is routine. Like getting into a routine. I literally went to my wife the other day and I was like, I need something bad to happen. Like, it sounds ridiculous.
I need to feel that stress and urgency and push through it. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like one of the greatest lines from a movie, the movie The Core. Have you ever seen the movie The Core where the Earth's core stops spinning and they have to drill down into it?
Yeah.
So it's a decent movie. It's not great. It's a good movie. But anyway, they're diving underneath the ocean and they've got this ship that they're using. It's like a submarine that can drill at the same time. It's weird, but it can go through ground as well as water.
Sci-fi.
Yeah. As they're going down under the water, the guy's going pressure, 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 pressure. And he's like saying it like he's like, we need more pressure, you know. And the other guy goes, I thought you said this thing was indestructible. He goes, I said it thrives under pressure, but there's not enough of it yet. Because as it got more pressure, it got harder, and they were about to hit the crust and it wasn't hard enough. And he was like, we need more pressure. And I'm like, dang, that just describes my life. Cause like, I need more pressure. I need something to happen so I can apply myself. And like, I need a crisis. I need a problem to solve.
Give me the next target.
And again, it's like when my wife was having babies, you know, when she was pregnant all the time, you know, and she was having kids, there was always the, you know, just helping her and getting her to the hospital, and then, you know, taking care of the baby, and then we'd, you know, move on, and then we'd have another kid, and I'm like, I was literally sitting there, I'm like, I feel like I need a crisis to happen. And Lydia's like, that's dumb. I'm like, yeah, it is dumb. Like, it is. Like, it's dumb to think that way. But my mind is literally craving I guess it's just the rush of being needed again.
Well, and that pushing your body to the limit where it's like way past the normal limit, and you're mind over matter, and you know that you're pushing outside of human limits, and you're just doing it because that's what we were made to do.
Yeah.
You know? And
Yep.
it's just, I mean, my body is trashed for that exact reason. I did the job at all costs, and the costs were myself. You know, and so I still go to the VA, and they're like, your body's worse than an 80-year-old man. You know that, right? And I'm like, yep. And like, I'll have like older doctors looking at me, like almost tears in their eyes. Like, you're way too young to be this messed up. I'm like, yeah, but the job got done really, really well.
You know, I live here, right? Do you realize that? You know, I live here, right? Like,
yeah. It's literally the equivalent of someone walking into your house being like, I really hate all of the decor in here.
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah,
okay,
like
well,
your
I live
house,
here.
you know, your house is really ugly. Like, you know, I live here, right? Like, thanks. I appreciate that.
This is, yep. But
I worked hard to make it look this way.
The other thing too, though,
I worked hard.
The other, you know, and I think you said something that kind of hit for me is like, you know, sometimes we look for that reason to be, you know, go off, right? And we do. And I burn up a lot of that by trying to work out. And I remember early on in my darkness when I decided that it was time to fight, like I was the third monkey in line for Noah's Ark, and it was starting to rain. Every time I had that moment where I was just wanted to scream or punch something, and I would do 10 push-ups and 10 sit-ups. And I tell you what, I dropped like 4 belt loops in 4 weeks, and I got really, really strong really, really fast. And I just like fed that want with something that was similar to just raging, right? And I
Yes.
again, that was something I was so shameful about in general until I realized it's not just me, that like something goes wrong and I just want to smack. Like last night I was setting up this whole thing and like changing my room around, and the display tipped off the storage totes I had set up. And I literally, like, Kat saw it on my face. I literally just wanted to pick it up and smash it off the floor.
I watched it.
And I'm like,
real time.
Nope. I'm just gonna set it over here and move on.
Bad universe.
And like, yeah, bad universe. That's been the new thing.
Universe.
Something I'm just like bad universe. Now it's the running joke because it's like that active choice. You know, I'm so far along that process at this point that it is most days an active choice. So like, let's not Hulk smash. Like maybe Hulk do something else. You know, and you know,
maybe Hulk
be a
color
video
for a
of
little
Hulk
bit.
Maybe Hulk color for a little bit. Maybe Hulk go for a run.
Yeah. You know, like, yeah, and
see Hulk out there like running on the road. Like I'm working something out. Leave me alone. Hey guys, quick reminder: if you enjoyed the episode today, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, go to whatever platform you listen to these podcasts on and leave a review. That's the best way to help us out. It gets a lot more traffic to us. So again, if you liked it, like, subscribe, and leave a review. All right, love you guys.